Yes, sir. We're officially back at it. This is Boog Nice coming at you with the Bandai Tamashii Nation's S.H.Figuarts Star Wars The Mandalorian figure review. Let's do it.
This ain't for no scalper. You a scalper? Then fuck out shit. This one's for them real collectors. That's army building and posing figures. Marvel Legends, imports, mini matey, I'm fucking with them. Hype beast, we know about you. Stay buying figs, don't know about it.
And a quick look at the left side of the box. You can see the Star Wars logo right above the Mandalorian logo. And on the opposite side, more the same. Star Wars logo, the Mandalorian logo, S.H.Figuarts, more credits, Disney logo all the way down at the bottom. Alright, let's get this bad boy open, see what's what. Alright, here we go. Mando, the Mandalorian from Disney Plus's streaming service. This is from their hit show, The Mandalorian. This is S.H.Figuarts' first figure from that series. Fitting that they would put The Mandalorian out first. Although they have done plenty of Star Wars figures, this is a great addition to the Star Wars universe. Everybody's trying to step out and do their version of The Mandalorian. Star Wars Black Series was the very first. Obviously, I'll get some comparisons here at the end. But I have to say right off the bat that I don't really like this figure. I'm not 100% on board with the way this guy looks. Something about the sculpt and certain aspects of this figure just look a little odd to me. Now, S.H.Figuarts is a smaller scale. Normally, they're about 5-inch or a true 6-inch, as people like to say. This is its own contained series. I do actually like some of the S.H.Figuarts stuff, especially pairing it with some of the Star Wars Black Series vehicles. And in terms of doing A.C.B.A. and displaying, it is nice to have just a tad smaller scale of figure to work with for certain things. I'm just not 100% sold on this particular version yet. I'll see how I feel by the end of the review. Let's look at his deco and go over his accessories. If I remember correctly, the events of The Mandalorian take place after the return of the Jedi, and we find the Mandalorian, who is a Mandalorian, and as part of the guild, he has a strict set of guidelines. He is like a merc for hire, mercenary for hire, paid assassin, but he gets sent on a mission to retrieve someone or something. He soon finds out that that something is basically a child. And that child is part of the same species or race as Yoda, and the internet went crazy over who they deemed Baby Yoda. He later learned that the name that the show was going by, or the name that all of the toys were going by, was the child. SHF actually put out a solicit for the child and a pre-order for the child too, but I think I missed it, so I'll have to try to get that on the back end somehow. But anyway, looking at his deco, the figure looks good as far as the paint and the overall accuracy to the look of the character from the show, and all of the little dings and nicks and the armor. And I think they did a decent job of trying to make it look a little weathered. Oftentimes SHF can make things look way too shiny. He looks okay. I could have used a bit more dirt and grit and grime, I guess, on this. Just a little bit. You know, there were portions early on where this armor was not the best, but it still looked pretty clean. And then there was a point where it got really, really dirty before he changed to another upgraded armor. But you can see his side piece there. In this version, the pistol is fixed into this little apparatus. You can actually pull this off to change it out. We'll get into that shortly. Quite a few little moving parts, so that way you can articulate him without there being too many issues. A couple of my issues with the figure is something about this sculpt just seems off. It just seems a little maybe too slender, and I don't really like the way the head sculpt looks. It looks very odd to me. I'm not really mad at the cape or the cloak. It's okay. It's like a felt, but it's kind of flat, kind of plain. Maybe this could have used a bit more tears and rips and weathering in it as well. Again, the figure looks very clean, but it's something off about the way this figure is sculpted. Maybe in some dynamic poses it'll look better. We'll see. But out of the package, he comes with 2 fists. Real quick, it should be noted that you can pop this head off. So any of you customizers out there, if you find a way to customize a different head sculpt that looks better, or you know is more to your liking, then you can. And if you wanted to actually remove this cloak and use something else that is better or more to your liking, then you can do that as well. And a quick look at those wrist pegs. He's packed in with one right hand that is in the package by itself. All the other hands are packed next to each other in sets, but this one is open with the finger slightly spread. It's kind of cupped. Maybe this one would be used with the actual child figure to hold him or something like that. I'm not 100% sure yet, and actually he does have a left hand that matches that right hand that I just showed, and then another right hand that is cupped a bit more, and then another left hand that matches the previous right hand. So they just have them in the package mismatched, but also a right hand that is his gun toting hand, or his hand with the trigger finger extended, and we'll double back to that. And then his final two hands are another right hand with the trigger finger extended. I assume the smaller of the two will be utilized to hold his sidearm, and then this one here is probably for the long arm, and then another left hand that is cupped. So obviously quite a few options to hold different items, and a lot of playability here with the different hands. I'm down with that. So there's a good look at the sidearm, and like I said, it's just clipped on there, and you can just unclip it like so, and then you clip on a version with the pistol removed like so. That wasn't really that simple to do. I don't know, this one seemed harder to attach than the previous one. I'm not really a fan of this particular design that they have here, but there he is holding the pistol. It looks okay. No issues there. You can see his finger is in the trigger groove, and his long arm comes in a few parts. With both hands and both weapons, it's probably best to put the weapon in the hand before you attach it to the wrist. So again, a couple parts for the long arm. This is most of it, and then you can actually attach the front end like so, and there's that. So I'll get that attached. I'm not really happy with the way it is attached here though. It doesn't really like click into place. It seems very fragile. You're gonna have to be super careful with this. And there's that. Yeah, there's that. I feel like I can position this a little better, but there it is anyway. As I mess around with this cloak and try to put it out of the way, I really do wish they had gone the distance and put some bendy wire in here. So I could see a lot of people taking this off and doing their own thing with the minor cloak customization. And it's going to take some finagling, but you can get him in a proper aiming pose with the long arm up closer to where his visor is. But, you know, it's kind of a pain in the ass. The articulation is there, but again, you have to be careful because of this piece that can just easily come out. I do not like the design of this, man. This should have been a little more durable, a little more sturdy, and there should have been some mechanism where this kind of locks and clicks into place. This thing is definitely going to get bent or broken, no question about it. And the long arm could actually be detached in the middle as well. I didn't realize this little clip comes out, and you can detach it here, and you can sling this over his shoulder too. So let me fix that. So this portion is actually attached in a way where it kind of locks into place and you don't feel like it's super delicate. That I like. So yeah, you can detach this here because there is another add-on that you can put in order for you to sling this over his back. Hold on, I'm doing this backward. There you go. And then we can put the front back on. Actually, I should probably wait and get this over his back first. But anyway, that's how it's all gonna look. Alright, so this is a complicated, convoluted mess to make you break and lose all the parts to this figure, basically. So what you have to do is slip this little portion through the slit in his cloak, and then you can attach that to a peg hole beneath his lower back, and that clicks in there pretty tightly. And then there is a portion right here near the butt of the long arm that you can pull out that is super tiny, that you will lose and be totally mad that you lost it. But you pull that out, and then you can attach this portion of the strap that slings over his shoulder to near where the trigger is, above where the trigger is, like so. That's in there snug, and there you go. I will say that it looks better than the Black Series version, and I do like the way things kind of snap into place, but it does still seem very delicate, and I don't know that I want to do anything more than vanilla with all of this stuff attached like this. The look here is nice for something vanilla, for a picture or what have you. The articulation here is what you would expect from S.H.Figuarts. Pretty standard articulation from them. I don't know if I could even go over every point with everything attached, but I don't feel like detaching anything. Anyway, you saw how the head was on that ball joint. He can look up, he can look down, left to right, pivot. You get a decent range of motion on the head. I mean, in the show, it wasn't like he had the greatest range with this helmet on. Shoulders, they're on a ball joint. They'll come up pretty far. They're not hindered at all by this shoulder pad, which can actually be detached. It's there on a hinge, and you can hinge it and shift it, and there it is popping out. You can do a full 360 on the arms. There is an upper bicep swivel as well, which actually helps you when you're trying to get them aiming those weapons. There is a double jointed elbow. There is a swivel and a hinge on the wrist. There is upper torso articulation a little bit, and you can turn him at the waist a little bit. I'm not doing it right now because, again, I don't feel like detaching this stuff. He does turn at the waist. It is hindered. I don't know how far you want to try to push this, but there is some articulation there. So at the pelvis, you do have the SHF sort of drop down method there. These pads here on his left and right are articulated. They're on a hinge joint, as is the pistol attachment. He has rotation at the upper thigh. It looks like I made that drop down too much. All right, I popped the gun out of the back there, but you can see how that looks, and you can see the armor is through and through in the back. But yeah, when you drop down the legs, you'll get a little more articulation. Well, you can see how the legs split. You can see how that joint looks in there. There is double jointed knee, which looks okay. They've got some of the armor here covering the knee, so it doesn't look too ugly when you articulate it. No rotation at the boot or anything, but there is a hinge on the foot. There is a swivel, a pivot, and a toe joint. So decent articulation in the lower legs and the pelvic area, lower legs, but a little stagnant in the upper torso. All right, size comparison time. So these are all figures from S.H.Figuarts. We have Boba Fett on the left and Jango Fett on the right. So you can see how some other Mandalorians or guys with Mandalorian armor stack up, and you can see they all just about the same height. But I do see where I think I have an issue with the Mandalorian, in that his helmet is a little small. His head looks a little small. If you were to take off that helmet and get a unmasked head there, it would probably be about the same size as the helmet. Maybe the helmet should be a tad bigger, and you can see that Boba and Jango both have helmets that are just a little larger. So I think that's where my issue lies with the Mandalorian. And yeah, I'm not 100% sure if Boba Fett is officially a Mandalorian. I don't remember how that goes. You official Star Wars nuts out there, let me know in the comments below. I think Jango is not a Mandalorian, and he was a clone, so he didn't really count. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yep. See, I can't actually pop it onto the peg, but with it just sitting there, that looks so much better as far as the size. And a couple more S.H.Figuarts figures. So a Stormtrooper on the left, which is obviously a character that we've seen appear in the Mandalorian show. And then on the right is the Death Trooper. And the Death Troopers made an appearance in an episode towards the end of the season with Moff Gideon. So hopefully SHF will follow suit and give us some of the same characters that the Star Wars Black Series gave us. The heavy armor Mandalorian, I forget his name, or Cara Dune. We are definitely going to get IG-11. Like I said, the child is on pre-order right now. That hasn't dropped just yet. And finally, there he is next to the Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian, who was only just a little bit taller. I'm surprised. I felt like he was much taller. And you can see how their guns differ, detail, and sculpt. Say the butt of the guns are slightly different. I guess they got the design right. Just that SHF's looks more shiny, a little more detailed. And you can see how they have the cloak slung over the shoulder of the Star Wars Black Series version, as opposed to the SHF version, where it's just kind of just there. It's just a piece of material there. See the difference in the helmets. You can see the Star Wars Black Series version is a little weathered. You know, they both got some nicks and dings and what have you in the armor. The upper torso articulation on the Star Wars Black Series is definitely better. But listen, the $20 figure from Hasbro is definitely holding its own against the import. And to be clear, the way they have the long arm pegged in for the Star Wars Black Series version is trash as well. It's easier to put in and pull out, I suppose, but I don't feel like you're going to break anything when you're messing around with this one. But again, I don't really like the mechanism for either. I do like the way this is kind of slung over one side, but again, because it's the hard plastic, you need sort of like a variation of both, or maybe it would have been cool if the SHF version had a hard plastic cloak and then one that was soft goods too, and you could kind of switch between the two. I think that would be the better compromise. I wish I could easily pop the head off of the Star Wars Black Series version and put it onto the SHF version, because I think that would look pretty damn good. So my take on the S.H.Figuarts The Mandalorian is he's a little underwhelming. I would not really recommend that you pick this up unless you kind of invested like me. You know, I'm going to continue on regardless and maybe make some alterations and do some kit bashing and upgrade this guy to my liking. But I think that they kind of dropped the ball on the size of the head and on some of the features that are a little delicate for an action figure. I mean, this is a high-end action figure, but it is what it is. I'm just a little disappointed. All right. So thanks for hanging out. As always, rate, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell down there. And until next time, peace.
That's crispy.